It's just
All right. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. And our speaker tonight is Pat Smith. He's a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, where he earned his degree in civil engineering. And after serving, he joined Serve Denton as their chief executive officer in 2019. In 2023, the Denton Chamber of Commerce awarded him the Otis L. Fowler Award. This award is given to those who, by regular engagement in their business, profession, or calling, have made a marked contribution to the progress and welfare of the Denton community. This is the highest and most prestigious honor presented annually by the Denton Chamber. Tonight, our speaker will present the inspiring journey of establishing the Roots for Wings Promoting Home Pollinator Gardens, which is a native plant conservation program in Louisville. He will share how the initiative was born from a vision to enhance the community's green spaces while promoting biodiversity and environmental stewardship. Please, everyone, help me provide a warm welcome to Mr. Pat Smith, and please post any questions you might have for him in chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for that wonderful introduction there. And I realize that I'm really late to the party. Many of you were heavily involved with Roots for Wings from its inception. And I got involved when I heard about it and really thought the city of Louisville was onto something. And so I nominated them for the Native Star Award. They weren't selected, but we're going to nominate them again. And I encouraged Mayor T.J. Gilmore, who's a good friend, to present at the Society Spring Symposium, which he did last March, and it was very well received. If you don't know TJ, he's a very humorous gentleman, an excellent speaker, and a lot of interest in his presentation, which essentially 90% of what I'm going to share is his presentation from last March. And then I'm going to add a little bit on what I've been working on with the state board over the last 8 months, kind of building on what Louisville did. So here we go. So a lot of this may be familiar territory for some of you, but some of you may be brand new. But I think what Louisville's doing is truly innovative at a state level and something that we need to promote. So here we go. So this is the most important slide. It doesn't look like much. It's a map, but it captures a very comprehensive process that the city initiated several years ago, and that was to develop a vision for what they wanted Louisville to be in 2025, and here we are. There were several initiatives the city launched. They annexed the area of Castle Hills off of just south of 121 over to the right-hand side, but they built a vision after many focus groups with citizens, and one of the initiatives that came out of that is to promote the green space and grow the green space of Louisville. Obviously, with Leela, that's literally at the heart of the community. It's something they're very proud of, as they should be. And how to build upon that and how to promote native plants. And that really launched this whole Roots for Wings initiative. The second most important slide is this one. And the city realized that for them to be successful, that they had to build partnerships. And so they were very intentional about working, obviously, with us, the Trinity Forks, with the school district, with Leela, with Keep Louisville Beautiful, Master Naturalists, UNT, and Army Corps of Engineers. And so you'll hear names for all these agencies throughout the presentation, but really built a team. That's really the first step to any good initiative, is to get the right people on the bus in the right seat. And the city, I think, did an excellent job with that. So this is kind of what motivated a lot of the folks to get serious about native plants is just the degradation to pollinators in general, monarchs specifically, just because those are easily identifiable and everyone can relate to those. And so uh, people had learned about what's going on with our pollinators and were concerned and said, hey, we want to make a difference. I know we're pretty familiar with the monarch path, but migration pathways. I-35 is kind of like the main street for monarchs traveling north and south, and Louisville's literally built around I-35E, and so that means a lot to them as a community. And so one of the partners that showed up as they went through this is Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's has made a major pledge to help save monarchs. They've contributed a lot of financial support to projects, and Buc-ee's, having just moved up the street into Corinth, became a strong financial supporter of these initiatives. So Buc-ee's for Butterflies at Leela, you can see and some of you may have been directly involved with making this happen. Chris Chastain, who is works for the Parks Department, oversees this along with Leela and UNT, but really just continuing to introduce and create new areas of habitat for all pollinators. And it's just amazing what they've been able to do out at Leela. And then at the same time as they were working on Leela, the city had created a new recreation center called Thrive. It's a very ingenious concept. And one of the things they wanted to do is to create a showpiece native habitat that they could point to and you really use for education purposes. I know we do a lot of the NLCP programs out at Thrive because it's such a great venue now, but it's truly a really well-designed center, really elevated the city's game in terms of parks and recreation programs. They have a really forward-thinking park staff that I've had the opportunity to get to know, but to really help promote this idea of native habitat, and to do that by example using Thrive as a showpiece or a centerpiece of this larger initiative that we're going to learn about. The other thing that they did is they really looked at public infrastructure. And if you've been around Louisville lately, last 3 or 4 years, downtown has truly gone through a transformation. New streets, complete streets, and complete streets of sidewalks, good drainage. Rather than putting in the famous murder strips, though, they created a blue-green infrastructure, and they did that with a lot help of Dr. Laura Fisher from UNT, who I'm sure some of you aren't aware, and Laura's a good friend, as well as Texas AgriLife, and I've worked with them on some other blue-green infrastructure projects. Blue-green infrastructures where we put in native plants and structural systems for drainage that really helps promote water retention and not sending it all to the lake. And so as you go down through Mill Street and Church Street and the heart of downtown Louisville, this is what you see. And it truly an innovative approach. I will assure you don't see that too much in Denton other than some of the medians, but really taking it to heart and setting an example. And the city leadership knew that if they were going to be successful, they had to be a leader and show this kind of initiative. Sometimes it's a little more expensive, takes a little longer, but in the long run, the results have really spoken for themselves. So while there's an altruistic part of this, there's also an economic part. And this is a couple of charts that TJ showed at the symposium that just talks about what grasslands and native media transitions, the benefit to cost ratio, and you can see there it's just the benefit for grasslands and converting them into native habitat is really high, around 36%. This is based on some pretty solid research. And so it wasn't just an aesthetic case that they were making, it was also an economic case. And that was part of what I used in writing up their award nomination for the Native Star, is how they're saving taxpayers money, a significant amount of money in mowing, in water retention, in a host of things that really make the community better and at less cost. And I'm always about making things better at lower costs. So the whole effort began in phase one with $150,000 in grant funding in partnership with UNT, and obviously we have a great relationship with them. That money bought plants, seeds, equipment, volunteer and paid labor, signage, as well as outreach events. And we'll talk more about this in depth. So phase one, they wanted to plan and optimize the plot treatment and selection of plants, can convert 19 acres of medians into native Texas wildflower habitat. And then they wanted to assess the planting and mowing strategies to reduce those costs, as I just mentioned before, and then look at how to engage and educate the community and provide outreach events so that the community could take ownership of these new habitats that really replaced the Bermuda grass that you see on the left. So they identified 7 different plots in the largely neighborhoods on the north side of town that you can see there, and tried different techniques on how to convert that turf into native habitat. We'll talk more detail these in the next slide. So median conversion began along Garden Ridge, and they had plot 8 where they installed the plants in the spring of 2023. And from there, they first tried solarization, and this was for plot 5, really a lot of invasive Bermuda grass. Tried solarization. I'm sure you're all familiar with that, but basically using black plastic to block photosynthesis from occurring and kills everything, including the insects, and creates a layer of organic matter for new plants to grow. No chemicals were involved. That took a lot of effort and was a little expensive. And they had 22 rolls of 6 mil plastic, 10 feet wide by 100 feet long. Over almost 1,500 bags of topsoil. Cost about $5,600 for just a half acre. And they were all purchased from a local hardware store. You can see they're installing the black plastic in the topsoil bags. And then from that, they identified, prior to the project, 33 plant species. They seeded, after the solarization, 47, and then also planted 20 other species. And now the volunteers have recorded over 95, and as of August 2023, 142 different species of plants in those areas. You can see the percentages there: 70% native, 16% non-native, and then 14% invasive. They also wanted to track biodiversity, and so they used iNaturalist and asked citizens to go out and just, as they were walking through this area, identify different types of taxa and record those. It's, so far, I've identified about 250 over this since inception. You can see the numbers there, but really brought a lot of mammals, birds, as well as insects, and then obviously plants to the area, and really generated a lot of interest from local citizens who could really be engaged and take part in the project and not just be bystanders. And I think that's a commendable approach that the city took to engaging citizens, that they weren't passive, they were active and really could inter interact with this new habitat. So some of the lessons learned from that is they worked with the native seed folks down in Junction and created a urban median mix that you can see there. And one looked at north central native plants, drought tolerant, effective germination, pollinator friendly, good coverage, and have really been able to refine this over the last couple of years to make it something that this is what they use, and get it all from the folks down in Junction. So one of the questions that they was asked or discussed at the symposium was to solarize and not to solarize. A lot of benefits with it, but it also creates a lot of waste and can also kill beneficial. And the biggest thing is they found it costly and difficult to do on a large scale. And so they went to new pollinator areas for in late 2023 and early 2024, and tried scarifying these areas, going down about 3 inches, breaking up the soil, and then planting seed and letting that native seed take over. And that's actually worked out fairly well. So you can see Garden Ridge Boulevard there, 24 acres from Highway 407 down to Highway 407 to College Parkway. That was done in November of 23, and then also Valley Ridge Parkway from I-35 to Garden Ridge. They also did a lot of education and outreach. So they created really good signage, both in English and Spanish. Really made it help people understand, this is a no-mows grow zone where it's not going to be, smooth cut Bermuda grass, and created a QR code, helped explain why they were doing it. You can see the logos down there from UNT, Roots for Wings, the Parks Department. But then they also created really good signage along these paths to help explain what they were doing with the blue-green infrastructure, pollinator gardens. So really creating this education outreach component that I thought was highly commendable. And then out of that, they created the Roots for Wings program. So the logo for the city of Louisville is the purple martin bird. You've seen it a lot in the slide presentation. So they took that idea of the purple martin, and if you want to know why they picked the purple martin, that's another conversation for another day. But really wanted to take that idea of roots and broaden it for wings of all sort, pollinators, birds, and then the mayor, great guy that he is, he took leadership. He's converting his yard into a native habitat. He lives right in the same area where a lot of that work was being done, and then asked other city council members and citizens to take that same pledge. I know Liz was involved with creating education programs. They asked residents who wanted to participate in the program, they had to apply. They had to take an abbreviated class on native habitat and then come up with a plan. And that plan then had to be approved by the city and meet certain criteria. And then once that was approved and installed and inspected by the city, then they would get this sign, the Louisville Certified Pollinator Garden. And I think that what that did is several things. One, it convinced neighbors and homeowners associations that people aren't just going to let their yard go to weeds, that they actually had to have a plan and had to be inspected, and it has to be recertified, I think, every 3 years. It puts some branding and some recognition into it, and people will do a lot for a little ribbon of recognition. That I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And because city leaders took an active role, a lot of other citizens became involved. They also did a lot of mapping of locations, and through their website, people could identify where they're doing, very similar to what Doug Tallamy's doing with the Homegrown National Parks. And as you start seeing these dots showing up, you can start to see that density and interest, and actually enclaves of people walking by and saying, "Oh, I want my yard to look like that," and then getting interested in the program. So this was their refined custom seed mix. I'm not sure all the little changes they made, but Native American seeds really worked well with them. And you can see there's just a huge variety of grasses and flowering plants that they've incorporated into this median mix, and really have made that their own. And so for 23 and 24, they're completing to seed the existing 11 acres and adding 25 more acres of native habitat, and then continuing to monitor sites and recording observations, training staff and volunteers how to use iNaturalist, and then hosting outreach events to educate citizens. And I know we as a society have been participating in those outreach events, and as this Trinity Forks new outreach coordinator, I'm going to help support those. I think the biggest thing that we should be proud of as a chapter is the city of Louisville was recognized an article in the Texas Monthly Magazine, how one Texas town is rethinking the American lawn. They also had an article in the Washington Post. This article attracted a lot of attention. I think it came out in November of 2023, and that's when I had proposed to the state board that they have TJ come and speak. But I think Louisville has done more than just plant seeds in meetings. I think they've planted a seed in communities, and that's what I want to talk about next. Part of my involvement with the state level is I helped a small group, Meg English, who's the executive director, the Laura Leggett, who's the incoming chair, some other folks work on updating their strategic plan. And we started that work back in April. And I really wanted to help take the society in a way that we grow our presence in across the state, and really strengthen our relationship with cities, because I think cities are where a lot gets done. And so we talked at length about the problem Texas has. We're losing native habitat at a rapid rate. I've seen a number that said it's approaching as much as 1 million acres a year right now. And then we're also this is something everyone knows, that we're using water to water non-native plants, while areas of the state are struggling to have adequate water. The Rio Grande Valley is really struggling to have enough water, and is not having to reduce the amount of agriculture that they're able to grow because of water restrictions, and just not enough. Cities at the same time are challenged by increasing costs of maintaining rights of way. Labor costs aren't going down, and we're just spending a lot of time growing invasive grass that we really don't want. And I think some cities are catching on to that. And then residents are wanting natives. We can see that in the number of requests for education events from us and Texas Master Naturalists. And then some cities want to use natives because but they lack the wherewithal to implement a program. Um, and TJ has spoken to approximately 20 different cities across the state just since his presentation last March, and he said he never thought Louisville would be known as the native habitat city of Texas, but that's becoming the reputation, and he's very proud of that, and as he should be. And so uh, Tom Kerwin and I worked with the state board and proposed a strategy, and I'll be interested to get your feedback on this. This has not been formally adopted, so this is the first chapter to see this. But thinking about what would be a aspiration for the society on a statewide basis. And what I suggested, and there was a lot of interest in this, is that we try to get 90% of all Texas cities, and I'm using 50,000 and larger as a city. There's 64 cities in the state of 50,000 or more people, to have an active habitat conservation program by 2030. That's pretty challenging, but I like challenging goals, and I think that's far enough away that it could be reached, but not so far that uh, we'd have to have our hair on fire to get it done. Focus on Texas cities over 50,000. Not saying we won't work with other cities, but those are cities of size that have enough staff and wherewithal to maybe do something like this. And essentially establish a city native habitat certification program to use existing chapters to deploy it, and through education, plant sales, and consulting. Those three things, education, plant sales, and consulting, are the society's core competencies, what we're really good at. And uh, the one thing I've learned, and I work with a lot of cities, is cities love to be recognized. There's the tree cities from the Arbor Foundation. There's now bird cities from the Audubon Society. And there's, if a city can earn a recognition, they're going to try and do it because they want to brag about themselves. They want to attract businesses and residents, and they want to say, "Hey, this is something we're serious about." And so, um, certifications have an appeal to them, uh, but at the same time, they want to be told what to do, and that has to be relatively easy for them to do it. Not saying it's a pushover, but they want some clear criteria and a plan so that they don't have to start it from scratch. Louisville started from scratch, and I think that's what's so commendable about the leadership of that community. And so coming up with a certification program and education programs, plant sales, uh, consulting, how to work with cities and coach them. And then that's something I do in my day-to-day job. And then also marketing and communicating with them and promoting the program. And then if we're going to do that, some systems that would be needed would be a certification management system, some sort of curriculum development system, and then lastly, some marketing communication support. So I presented this to this strategic committee in December. There was a lot of interest in it, but there were obviously questions like, well, who's going to do all this? And so I've reached out to UNT Frisco, the students there. And if you haven't been to UNT Frisco, they use native plants everywhere throughout the campus. And so it's very impressive. And so I created an idea. Leveraging our existing nice nursery program. So this is just a working title. It's not official, but I have a group of students that I'm now working with to develop what we call the Nice Cities program, which would create a curriculum and a marketing plan modeled on Roots for Wings to promote to Texas cities. They would take the ideas of Roots for Wings, and we'll work with Chris Chastain and city staff there to put this program together, learn from the lessons from Roots for Wings, see what other cities in North Texas would be interested, and then figure out how we might market this, might be under a different name, but is this something we would want to share? I'm not asking for a decision. I'm just getting the pump going. And this state folks all said, you know, the best programs always start at the chapter level. And so we'll see what we decide to do here. I think this is my last slide. So we're going to have this group of students go out and survey some cities, see if they're interested. We know a few are already, and then create what we call a model action plan, a map with samples and templates, taking what Louisville did and kind of homogenizing it a little bit, presenting that to creating a presentation to share with cities, and then creating a logo and then a brand script narrative. And brand script is a tool I use to help create a strong brand. And what's our 30-second elevator speech, and how do we leverage that in telling the story? My hope is that we can put this together over this spring semester, and come back sometime in the summer or early fall and share what the students have put together. I've worked with them now for almost 3 years, and they've done great work. I've had them present at international conferences, and it's a project-based program. They don't write papers, they don't take tests, they just do projects. And it's pretty rigorous, but it's also very innovative. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. I know that's a lot in a short period of time, and look forward to hearing what your thoughts are.
Hey, Pat.
Yes, ma'am.
Great presentation. Thank you. Do you know if a city does a program like this, would that supersede any HOA deed restrictions?
No,
Great
no.
question, Lisa. Pat, in the city of Louisville, they actually passed an ordinance that would supersede the HOA restrictions. That was kind of the negotiating point, that the HOAs did not want, someone to let their yard go to weeds and say, "Oh, I'm doing Roots for Wings." That's why they had to have this. People had to go through training, which we provided. They had to have a plan that had to be signed off by the city. They had to implement the plan, and then once the plan had been implemented, the city had to inspect and certify that it met certain criteria. And so that structure was something that the HOAs agreed to, and the city actually created an ordinance to make that the law.
Okay. And then one other question. I live in far south Denton County.
Mm-hmm.
My mailing address is Roanoke.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we are technically in the city of Fort Worth.
Uh-huh. Yep, you are.
So how on some of these bigger cities, I mean, my HOA right now, we're fighting to get police presence in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you're dealing with that type of stuff, are you approaching parks departments of the cities, or like, how are you going about with the cities you're reaching out to?
Yeah, that's another excellent question. Honestly, I've learned to reach out to city managers.
Okay.
City managers are the CEOs of cities, and one of the great things about Louisville is I can point to everyone to Claire Powell, the city manager of Louisville, and TJ Gilmore, and say, "Well, this is what Louisville did, and here's why, and here's the results." And now parks, often this programs like this land in the parks department, but I've learned if I try to go from the bottom up, they won't get very far. But if I go from the top down, I'm I make a lot more progress a lot faster. So
Okay. I wasn't sure if, when you have bigger cities that have bigger issues, like, being 400 police officers short,
sure.
Like, does the city manager care about the butterflies?
Probably not on a day-to-day basis, but at the same time, city managers, I'm working with a city manager of Richardson and Plano. Both, they're not the same size as Fort Worth, obviously, but they're pretty big cities, and uh, they're trying to tackle tough issues. And a lot of cities right now are running into some financial crunches. The city of Plano's got a $3.3 million shortfall. And so figuring out ways to reduce costs, and if I can reduce my water consumption and mowing costs, a dime here, a dime there, before I know it, you're talking real money. So um, we'll see yet. We haven't uh, really rolled this out, but I'm optimistic, especially probably not the big cities like Dallas or Fort Worth, but smaller cities like Richardson or Plano, Frisco, uh, I think will be open to this idea, especially when they see Louisville. And Louisville's 145,000 people. Denton's about 155,000 people now. So if they say they're doing it, they will most likely say, "Hey, we can do that too."
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that suggestion about Mansfield.
Okay. I have some questions from the chat feature. And
Okay.
the first one is the list of plants from the Native American seed. Is that something that you can post publicly? Is it already posted on Louisville's website, or is that something we can post on our Trinity Forks?
I'm sure you can post it on Trinity Forks.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I don't think it is posted on the city's website, but I know they'll be happy to share that.
Okay. Then let's see. How
You can literally
involved?
order it from Native American.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You can order it from Native American, but I'll get it to you, Pat, so it can go to the website.
Okay, because it's a custom mix, correct?
Yeah, but now they're marketing it as an urban median mix.
Oh, okay. All right. And then how involved is the city of Denton?
None.
Okay.
Now, the city of Denton has its own programs on native habitat, so don't think it doesn't, because obviously it has like Clear Creek, and it's done some median conversions to native plants, but nothing to the extent that Louisville has.
Okay. And then I have another question on more information, please, on the scarify method.
Yeah, so
You can turn off your.
I can get with Chris, but basically what they did is they basically take what's called a chisel. It's a drag behind a tractor, and it just basically puts grooves in the soil about 3 inches deep, enough to break up that hard pan that's on the surface. And they found it, one, it's a lot cheaper and a lot faster, and if they can get good germination, the natives will do a pretty good job and eventually take over. It's really just, it's also ripping out a lot, or just ripping out a lot of that Bermuda root system. And if you want more details, I can ask Chris, but that TJ said that the solarization was going to be really expensive and take a lot longer, and they can just go down with a tractor in an afternoon and scarify, large areas pretty easily, and then come back with a seed spreader and spread that seed and get really good results.
Okay.
Is there a certain time of year that you do that scarifying?
Yeah, it's in the fall actually. So they're planting most of these seeds in the November timeframe, so that those will basically catch the winter rains and then start popping up in the spring.
And do you mow the Bermuda as flat as possible first?
Yeah, they cut it pretty short, yes, and then from there
Okay.
they'll scarify it with the chisel.
I can't believe that Bermuda doesn't come up.
Yeah, I mean, it does come back, but I think also over time what their experience has been is the natives do a good enough job that they kind of take over, and really tearing up that Bermuda has helped. So
Yeah, thank you. Well, do they rake after, or are there pieces of Bermuda after you run that chisel?
I mean, Bermuda's still there, and I don't think they rake it because they just use the dead stuff to as kind of a cheap compost. But let it.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for the details.
Yep.
Okay, so you had mentioned using having students in a 3-year program that participate with you, and the question is, who are these students and what program are they in?
Yeah, so they're in UNT Frisco has a pretty unique academic program. It's called Project Design and Analysis. And so they apply and kind of are hand selected. They're in what are called cohorts, about a group of 10 students, and that 10 group of 10 stays together through the 3-year program. And then they go through an pretty intense project design and management program, and are basically given projects every semester. And like they have to go out and do marketing research, and they use a principle called design thinking of how to innovate and develop new programs for difficult problems. Wicked problems is a commonly used term. And so I keep throwing problems their way, and they love to work with me. And I challenge them. I meet with them about every 2 weeks, some in person, some via Zoom, but they come together, and as they're working on it, they're writing, they're thinking, they're doing analysis, and they get help from faculty as they do that. And then they put together a
Wow.
pretty high-end presentation. It's a very professional presentation at the end of the semester to me and whoever's interested. And then that becomes the deliverable that I'll use going forward for whatever initiative I'm working on.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is very impressive.
Yeah. All right, one other question here is, has this been presented to the Texas Municipal League?
Great question. And no, it's not. But I actually told the state board that they need to start going to the Texas Municipal League convention, which I went to last October this year in 2025. It's going to be in Fort Worth. And so I think that's actually on the radar to have a booth at TML. To get on the agenda to present at TML is very, very hard. But
Okay.
I think having a booth there would be a really good move for the society and start getting the word out. The word is already out a lot about Louisville, just within all the cities and mayoral groups that are out there. I think that's an excellent idea that we should pursue. And I've talked to Laura Leggett. She's very interested in it. And we go to the Texas Nursery and Landscape Architect Association convention, which, did you know that landscaping in Texas is a $40 billion industry?
Oh my goodness.
$40 billion industry. Yeah.
With
So
lots of Bermuda grass.
lots of Bermuda grass. And so, you know, we've talked about, well, how do we turn the tide? And my answer is this is just preaching to the choir, of course, but how to make natives cool, show cities how it's smarter to use natives than Bermuda grass. And all you need is one real good example. And that's what we have now. We have a test case. So they can't say it can't be done. It's just, okay, how willing are you? And I think if we throw some recognition at it, if we call them a nice city or something else,
Yes.
that's something cities like to brag about themselves. Oh, we're a nice city. What does nice
Right.
mean? Natives
Yes.
improve and conserve the environment. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, in fact, the person who posted this question said they should add that nice certification to their current list of certification and awards. And I'm sure that you've talked through all of that, but
I have.
Sounds like
Yeah.
you've already got some support here, so.
Well, good. That's what I'm hoping for. I need this feedback from you wise people. So I'm the new kid on the block, but I think the challenges we face as a state, I mean, this is a public policy conversation. The
Mm.
challenges we face in the state with water, with growth, and not all growth is good. And I think cities are ripe to have this conversation. They just need a good example. And they need something, I don't want to call it easy to implement, but something that is
Mhm.
readily implementable, that they don't have to start from scratch. And that's what Chris Chastain at the city said is, because I said, you know, what would you want to see if you were a new city? He goes, well, I want some basic criteria, but I also want something where I can choose what I don't do. And
Mhm.
so, you know, some of the things are like, okay, you got to enter into partnerships. You have to have at least 3 partnerships,
Right.
maybe with a Native Plant Society chapter, a TMN chapter, Master Gardener chapter, or some other conservation organization. Or that might be one criteria. You have to have a demonstration garden,
Right.
and you know, you have to work with your local partners to develop that demonstration garden, and you have to offer education classes, and you
Yeah.
know, just take what Louisville did and replicate it. And you know, everyone wants merit badges. I'm a Boy
Yes.
Scout. I
Yes,
will
we
work
remember
really
that.
hard to get a little cloth
Yes,
pad.
we did. We did. Well, I
So,
have some comments, some good ones. I just wanted to let everybody know we'll be keeping a copy of this transcript. But the suggestion to tour the UNT campus at Frisco was made, so we can add that as a potential field trip.
yep,
Someone reinforced for you, Pat, that Mansfield on the south side would be perfect for this.
I saw that. That's a great idea. Thank you for suggesting that.
And then the solarization, what was the verdict on that? And I think you mentioned that it worked, but it was too costly.
Yeah, too costly and not a lot of, it was a pretty small area for the cost that of what it took to do.
Okay.
And there was some downside to it because it kills off all the insects as well. So,
Right. Okay. And then Scott Keister tells us we can get the seed list from Pat Thompson at Leela.
yep, that's true.
And the question here is, have you had much success with milkweed seeding?
Uh, I don't know the answer to that question. Um, I don't know if how much they've done with milkweed, honestly.
Okay. Okay. So something we can look into. Yes, somebody wants to
Hey,
come.
it's Christine.
Christine,
Yes. So with Texas Master Naturalists, there's a plot of land in Louisville that one of our members would go out and then we all started helping her, and we would put those little like tool bags that you get from jewelry and stuff, and we would put them on the seeds whenever the I believe it's green milkweed that grows in this big field. And so we go out there and harvest those seeds, and then we were giving them out at our chapter meetings and then also for, like we would put them up at our booths and things like that for outreach. And then we actually even had plants, and I think we might have donated some to either the native plant sale or the master gardeners. I'm not positive, but the milkweed is something that I think people would be, because it goes right along with Save the Monarch kind of thing.
mhm.
And so I just made a note to check with my colleague, to see if that's something that we could somehow incorporate, into those. I did notice on the seed mix that there is some green milkweed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Pat, I see Rachel has her hand raised.
Yes, I was
yes.
just wondering when you were talking about the many large-scale problems of cities, there's a lot of research that's done showing the benefits, to reducing those problems, reducing crime, reducing, mental health problems, of course, increasing physical health and everything. And I'm wondering what would be an effective way to approach them and integrate some of that kind of research and really, put forward that, yes, you have these huge budget problems, but part of that is because we need more natural areas and people need more exposure to nature, and that will help your city. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think just showing the, citizen feedback for Roots for Wings is one way, that not just the economic or the habitat, but also the aesthetic, um, uh, positive aspects of it. So that's a really good research question. Christina or Christian Cockrell has her hand raised.
Yes.
Yes. Christian, go ahead.
Hi, yes, thank you. So, my question is, have you talked about or like discussed more ordinances within cities? Because I feel like there's only so much outreach people can do. And I'm like in the Argyle area,
Uh-huh.
and like Harvest is this huge new development that's been here for the past 10 years. But
Right.
the one thing is, not many people are interested in changing their lawns or getting out and getting gardening. So like could cities pass ordinances like if you're going to develop this land, you're going to have specific plants you're going to use at these
Yeah.
neighborhoods because they already do that for like parking, for example. So
Right. Yeah. Great question, Christian. And that's something that Louisville did is they actually passed a pretty all-encompassing ordinance, which was really groundbreaking. And because they realized they needed to do that if they're going to make this work. And but I've worked on a variety of other issues, whether it was payday lending and um, also towing and egregious fees for towing. And once you get a model ordinance that a city's done, it's really easy to share that with other cities and say, here's what Louisville did. It meets all the criteria of Texas state law, and it really makes that conversation easier. And I think a lot of cities are just saying, give me an example. And once you have that, it makes that conversation easier. I'm not saying there won't be some pushback. I think you get pushback from landscapers and nurseries, but because their challenges is they have a hard time supplying native plants. Obviously, we have some nurseries who are very proactive, but I'll know we're successful when Home Depot is nothing but natives. That's my goal.
Okay. So, well, a question here in chat was, what was the biggest challenge in establishing the Roots for Wings program?
I think it was really overcoming the concerns of the HOAs. And I'm sharing this secondhand. I'm talking based on what I learned from talking with city council members and city staff is getting over that hump with the HOAs because they did not want people to let their yards go to weed and say, "Oh, I'm native." That was a real fear, and
Mhm.
I think once they put the structure in place with the education and the plan and the inspection, I think that assuaged a lot of those concerns. And I mean, I've met the young lady who was the first one to complete the Roots for Wings program, and everyone wanted to have her yard. They said, "Well, I want my yard to look like your yard," and she's got that sign out front, and she was featured in the Dallas Morning News. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Those. So, related to what you've been talking about, really, in some ways, I think you've answered this one, but it's specifically for Carrollton. How do you get a program like this started in our home cities? And I'm going to add to that by saying, not all cities have a Pat Smith who can be the advocate. How would you suggest putting a group together or, yeah.
yeah, great question. And I've done this a few times, and so my starting point is to go to city council. Every city council has an open mic bylaw where you can talk for 4 minutes, and I come in with a very short, positive, uplifting presentation and ask at the end of that 4-minute presentation for the council to ask for the staff to do a staff report on how the city of Carrollton could implement such a program modeled on the city of Louisville's Roots for Wings program or something like that. And say, we have a model where we're happy to share it with you. And oh, by the way, we have a great, wonderful society of native plant enthusiasts and Texas master naturalists, and we're here to help. And it's very, very hard for council members to say, no, we don't want a staff report. They will ask for a staff report, and then you start working with the staff, and one thing leads to another.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe I've covered most of them there. I want to encourage all of our members to look at the chat transcript, because there's some information in there that's being shared. Pat, I see a lot of messages here thanking you, and people feeling very inspired about what you shared tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll start being on this every month, because I'm under the leadership of Liz Moyer for outreach. And so
right.
I'll keep you updated as we go.
That's great. Thank you. And members, if you want to add something to chat, you have a few minutes. And otherwise, as Pat mentioned, he is serving on the outreach committee now, so we know how to find him.
Yep.
Oh, he's chairing it. I'm sorry, chairing it. Eventually, Liz is going to set him free. All right, I'm going to switch back to Dawn.
I've already set Pat free. He's doing a fine job. I would like to tell everybody that if you live in Louisville, we're getting ready for another residents workshop.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the city website or just do a Google search, Roots for Wings, Louisville, and sign up for it. And we do the training and everything for the residents there, and that helps you get into the program. You have to take the workshop to get into the program and have an audit team come out and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And we have work days on the demo garden. It's at the animal shelter in Louisville, and those work days are, I can't remember what day they are, but we'll send out a message about it so you guys can all see it and sign up, go help. It's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful little garden, and we're hoping to have a little more activity out there this year. The master naturalists are really showing us up, guys, so we need to get it together.
All right. Thank you, Liz. Anything else? Well, Pat, thank you for the talk, which was great, and thank you for taking over outreach, which we are really looking forward to seeing what all goes on this year. And I don't have anything else, so unless someone has a comment, we'll end the meeting. So somebody, if you did notice in chat, somebody was asking about how do you get a copy of the chat, and Pat noted that it comes with the transcript of the meeting, which was recorded.
Sue tells how to get it also.
You want to stop the recording?